how's your day so far?
It's okay running around doing errands. I thought I'd have more time, but I was gonna set everything up at my friend's house, but just another time. So
that's cool. Yeah, thanks for thanks for making the time. I really appreciate it. So one of the first questions I ask people to get to know them, just because the whole purpose of this is to kind of get to know some of my favorite YouTubers. I really like your channel, by the way. Thank you for all the great videos.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to kind of expose more people to some of your content because one of the reasons why is because I watch a lot of jiu-jitsu videos. I do jiu-jitsu myself. So a lot of my content, I get a lot of other bullshit, like super like weird, like manosphere kind of bullshit. So like as a sort of a martial arts channel myself, I want to like kind of, if those people are going to come in here, I'd like them to have like a wider view of other stuff. You know what I mean? So like I appreciate you being here.
Oh yeah, if they come in, they're gonna love it now since I'm in the car. That's their favorite like platform, right?
Well, hopefully they'll listen anyway.
I mean, no, I will because it is in the car. That's their thing.
Yeah. You're right. That's totally a thing. Like just being in the car, like ranting in the car. You're right. We're perfect. We're doing it. We're doing it already. We're doing great. All right. So first question. If you have an answer to this, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. But I feel like it's a question that unites a lot of people in many generations. Do you have a favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? And if so, who is it?
I want to say, I think it's Leonardo, the one with the swords. I'm a sword person, so like, you know what I mean? If you got some swords, you're going to win me over pretty quickly. So.
I like that. You're a sword person. Like you collect swords, or what do you mean?
I have one. I would collect them if I had like my shit was a little more stable, and I had like, I'm bouncing like right now. I'm bouncing around and stuff through the health issues and stuff, and like trying to find a spot back in Seattle. So, if I had the fun and had everything set up and a spot to store them, I would definitely collect swords. I've always been a sword nerd from get. You know what I mean? Honestly, like everybody else likes guns, and don't get it wrong. I see a need for guns. Unlike a lot of liberal leftists, or really liberals, I'm not gonna call them leftists, but really, I never had no big like, oh, guns are cool. It's always like swords are cool. So he already had me, and then he was like kind of like the cool, calm, collected, meditative one, and he got the swords, the dual swords at that. So dual sword wielding, oh man, that is my Skyrim characters, dual sword wielding. So like.
Nice. I'm also a Leonardo, so I understand you perfectly. There are swords in front of me, and there's swords all around me right now. But what in the same kind of nerd, getting to know like who you are as a person. I try to like kind of like get into like what people are really nerdy about. So if is there a particular thing that you're like super duper nerdy about, that you could like go on and on all day about, that you have a passion for?
I mean, I hate to say this, but like, I mean, it's not like it's a passion, but it's also a passion because it's a necessity. But I gotta say, probably like geopolitics to some degree. But I kind of got spread out. Like, I'll be real, but it's kind of spread out. I like geopolitics, but I also like space and shit. I like animals and nature and real biology, not the manosphere biology, which isn't actually the truth. It's just based on some shit they like heard in gym class. But you know what I mean. And when I talk about biology, I'm not like focusing on the gender side of it either. I'm talking about like more like how we evolve and shit like that. You know what I mean? So that kind of interests me. And like animals, like I said, like a motherfucker. Animals are interesting. Nature is interesting. So I nerd out on like a lot of natural stuff. I do like new inventions. I'm not gonna lie. I just got like a broad nerding thing. It used to be video games, used to be my main thing, but now it's like politics is my main thing. So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, well, yeah, you change. Your interests change and evolve. So you said video games. Like you mentioned Skyrim. What other games were you into whenever you were playing games?
Well, I'll just say the games I got right now. I mean, the best game of all time. Okay, let's start with that. Actually, that's an old game. Best game of all times is the original Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's pretty classic take. Pretty classic take. You know, a lot of people agree with that, but I feel like just the fact that you're an eco-terrorist trying to save the world just kind of like this fire. I mean, I don't know. Oh shit! I probably got you demonetized. You might have to censor that.
No, there's no. Don't worry about monetization, man. That's not a concern around here. I'm not worried about that. That's not why I'm doing this. Like, you can say fuck and all kinds of shit. I don't care what you say, but you say whatever you want. Yeah, you know, like hopefully, if I grow some kind of fan base, it's because people just like want to be here and like make the effort to be here. So I don't give a shit about that. Yeah. So no, I agree with that. So you like the Captain Planet vibes of Final Fantasy VII, is what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, but a little more. I feel like it's a little more harder than Captain Planet. I would say Captain Planet was kind of always like, you know, PG version of it. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
Nobody needs to be hurt type shit. It's like, yeah,
right,
how life works.
Yeah. If we had a more extreme cartoon, you know, maybe we wouldn't be here right now.
I say closer to Fern Gully. Closer.
Okay.
Fern Gully's
like
still nobody I hope. It's along that line. You know what I mean?
Oh, so as like someone who makes YouTube videos, who do you go to for, like, when you're, you know, either watching them for fun or watching them, you know, for research and stuff? Who do you tune into? Who should we be watching? Who should we be paying attention to?
I mean, I kind of like just pan the scope as far as the research. I definitely go to FD. I definitely go all in for like contemporaries, but I also go to a lot of the ops to watch their shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And honestly, outside of like research, I feel like I got a very different viewing thing because like music, it's like I like things about straps, specifically about guns and stuff like that, like different types of things. How to build infrastructure, survivalism, stuff like that. Like those type of channels more so. I like self-defense channel, not self-defense, but martial art channels. Yeah.
Okay.
Self-defense is not like I watch a lot of boxing things. You know what I mean? So like because I've made some stuff and I practice a little bit. I've been off my game because of my health, but you know what I mean? I try to like pick up things. If I can't pick it up in person, I try to pick it up online, right? So they have a bunch of like boxing tutorials, and especially when you already kind of know how to box a little bit, then you add some boxing tutorials, you can really like expound upon that because you kind of get the basics already. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Absolutely. But, yeah. I'm not sure if you ever had a chance before to check out my channel right here, but I teach jiu-jitsu here in Pittsburgh. So like this is mostly a martial arts channel. So I was actually going to ask, like, you said you trained before. Like, what martial arts have you trained before?
Well, I've done a little bit of boxing. I've done a little bit of Hung Gar, specifically. When I was a little kid, I don't count this by the Taekwondo, but that's, you know, I don't really count that. And I also don't really count Hung Gar as really like fighting. I mean, it does have some things you can utilize, but when it comes to like a street fight, it's never really done me too much good. You know what I mean?
What can you expound upon? I don't know what that is.
Hung Gar is like a form of Kung Fu.
Okay.
Specifically. And, you know, it's like those martial arts that are more dances than like practical, you know what I mean? So right. when I think about fighting, I think about boxing. I want to get into kickboxing. I would love to do Muay Thai. But then when I think of like Kung Fu specifically, I think that's more of an art form than an actual fighting form. Because if anybody knows, maybe you'll be able to beat up some people that try to attack you or something. But if anybody has any fighting skill whatsoever, they're probably going to beat your ass, even if you are well trained in it. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of not really. So I went. It's good. It's good for getting you physical. It's good for getting you like getting some certain things in there as far as like your muscle movements. But then as far as like actually getting that good practice, my general rule is when it comes to like sparring or fighting or training, you have to get hit. Like if you're not getting hit, it ain't gonna do you no good. That's my argument against self-defense classes the whole time. And I even see people who do self-defense classes defend them, be like, yeah, but we're not trained to fight against a trained fighter. I'm like, yeah, but even that, like if they get hit, they're gonna forget everything immediately unless they're getting hit as normal part of the process. And you know, That's the first thing I learned when I was learning Hungar is I forgot everything immediately. Once I got here, I was like, back to what I usually do. I'm like, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's like, and I think boxing has always been more tangible for me. Always made the most sense the more I learned a little bit about it, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it still just takes the natural responses and then refines them versus like trying to do like, I don't know, jump kicks and shit. Personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really like I'm glad to hear like you say all that stuff because like that's how you can tell if someone is realistic about their martial arts. If they say like, if you don't train with live resistance, how do you know what's going to happen whenever someone actually tries to stop you from doing what you're trying to do?
Bet. I actually, one of my pet peeves is like all these self-defense classes targeting at women specifically. I'm like, more so than ever, they need to actually get into really fighting shit. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be some dude that's going to put their hands on them and they're going to freak the fuck out, especially with them having more than likely bigger size and so on and so forth. I'm like, yeah, no, you need to actually be able to tussle a motherfucker so you know that you're going to get hit and you're going to have to keep going and you're going to be able to keep going with the coolest head possible. You know, you're never going to have a perfectly cool head, but the coolest head possible, you know what I mean? So, and like, also, muscle memory is everything, like instinct, being able to like move without thinking about it. Like I couldn't slip a punch till I slipped punches many times. You know what I mean? Then I could slip a punch. It's actually funny. The first time I got in a real fight slipping a punch is some pervert who grew up some woman I got in conversation with. He tried to fight me, skinny nigga, right? Oh, he's a skinny nigga. Like, and he missed me with every punch, which made me feel so filthy. I was like, bro, I'm like, that had never happened before. I usually just like go in and like, I'm gonna catch some blows. It is what it is, right? But that was the first time might be the only time that ever happens. But I literally slipped every single punch. I was like, that's fucking filthy. I felt. Now, that being said, my form was kind of bad. And I hit him with a jab, cross, jab, slip, jab, cross, slip, jab, cross, slip. So it's kind of like sloppy. Any real fighter would whoop my ass for moving like that. But you know what I mean. But the thing is, because I really trained, and there was someone who didn't really fight, who just thinks they're a badass on the street or whatever, just throwing haymakers at you, didn't really stand a chance. But if I didn't train, they would have caught me with it. They still might not have stood a chance, but they would have caught me with a few of those. You know what I mean? So that's just, yeah. I mean, oh, go ahead.
No. Continue, please. Go ahead.
Nah, real resistance, like you said, real resistance is important. It's fundamental. Not like these pseudo, like I'm really anti self-defense, if you can't tell. Self-defense classes, I'm super anti. I'm like trained to fight, trained to actual combat. Don't just train to like, if you're in a situation, do this, because you're not going to do that. I promise you. And then also, sometimes that shit just don't work. Every person's not going to react to the same shit the same way. You know what I mean? Or like, they love to tell you to kick, for example, they love to tell you to kick dudes in the nuts. I'm going to tell you, you kick me in the nuts, you're going to make me mad. That's it. You're not going to stop shit. Like, if I'm fighting you, like, you just piss me off a little bit more. Now I'm like, oh, you want to play that game? Now I'm kicking you. No, I don't want to be doing no creep shit with it. But if I was fighting someone that kicked me in the nuts, I'm like, okay, now I'm going for your knees. I'm going to try to break one of them knees. Like, asshole, like, what? That's all you're going to do. It's not going to stop me at all. You know what I mean? And now, I'm not saying it won't stop nobody, but, like, that person probably never been in too many fights in their life if it works against them. You know what I mean? Because I promise you, you've been in fights, people have kicked you in the nuts. You know what I mean? That's the thing. And also, there's the wrong way to do it, because I always see in self-defense because they try to, like so hard. It's like, if you did want to do it right, you want to tap them. You want to go like, that is way more painful than an actual through. You know what I mean? Yeah. Through would just be like, oh, you try to kick me in the nuts.
Yep.
Bet. Okay.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you broke my arm. Now it's on. Like, now I'm going to kill you. You know, like.
Bet. Like, look. This, I don't know if you can tell my arm's crooked, but this had my arm broken in prison, and I still kept fighting. Like, I still kept fighting. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, don't think that everybody's going to just, like I said, if someone's doing that, they're literally someone who's never had conflict in the first place before. And there are predators, there are people who have not really dealt with conflict. But, like, they're probably, like, less than you would think they are. You know what I mean? Less creepy dudes that have never been hit in the face. I promise you. They've probably been hit in the face by multiple people's, like, partners or boyfriends or stuff, too. So, like, also, you know what I mean? They then, you know, it's like you can't just count on that. And but if you do train all the time, you consistently train for like, oh, I'm not just here to like chase them off, but I'm here to take them down. Then you'll be at least good enough to like knock them away from you and get away. But if you just trying to just knock them away from you and get away, you're probably not even gonna get either one of those. Probably neither one of those are gonna be successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think so. So a lesson I always took that for granted when I was a kid from like a lot of those like kind of shows that were spread out. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 37. I'll be 37 real soon here. So a lot of the cartoons push the message like never escalate. I'm specifically thinking of Power Rangers. They would say like never. The reason why they didn't like just like immediately like go into Power Ranger mode and call out some Zords and just stomp those putties is because like you don't escalate it beyond where the other party has already brought it to. Like it's about defending yourself. So you never defend yourself. It's not called self attack. It's if you're defending yourself, you're only resisting as much as the other person's giving you, right? So like you're turning it up. It's the golden rule of violence is, you know, you don't hit anybody any harder than you want to be hit. Golden rule of training, you know, like that's it. So it's the same in a real fight where it's like, okay, like you said, if you turn it up to this level, well, now I'm going to this level or maybe above because now I'm pissed off.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's a real thing is for me, I'm like, no, as soon as you feel threatened, go as hard as you fucking can. Fuck that. They cross that line. You know what I mean? And like a lot of like people I learned how to fight from like, yeah, no. Like, especially because I used to do like some, I guess it's self-defense. It wasn't self-defense, but some training classes where we just train and spar and like teach you how to punch and all that type of stuff. Just the basics. I'm not like someone who can like train to the degree that like I'd want to be trained at, right? But it's like for people who don't know how to fight at all, I teach them how to brawl a little bit, right? And then one of the things we talk about, like, no, when they go to ground, you don't stop until they can't get back up. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what's going to happen when they get back up. They can pull a gun, but even though even if you don't have a gun, they can pull a knife. They can come after you. You turn your back on them. Shit. As somebody who's been in fights and have taken the L, I have got, even though I wasn't the person of the predator per se, right? They were all proud that they dropped me or whatever, and then turn their back and then catch it. You know what I mean? Because I'm getting right the fuck back up. Like, nope. And that's a defense. That's me as being on the defense and being like, hell no. Now you talk about somebody who's like aggressively coming at you. You think they're going to stop because a little resistance? No. I mean, maybe it would happen, but you want to be prepared for the worst. You want to be prepared for the best case scenario. You know what I mean? You want to prepare for the worst case scenario, and self-defense class do not do that for you at all. And I feel like, honestly, I've been a big person that I feel like they're more dangerous than they are beneficial. They give a false impression, and about how it's going to work out. And it's just like there's so many things. You have to be give somebody who's the first time ever being aggressive to somebody, and they want to decide that the first time's got to be you. Then maybe it'll work.
We were talking about one of the reasons why I enjoy your videos and wanted to talk to you is because like I could, like you're clearly a person who's like in this, you know, on the level of like getting out and doing things like on the street, like you have like a that view of a lot of things that are like going on right now, and so that's one of the reasons why I like kind of trust your opinion to point out like stuff that's going on at that level, and I really appreciate that. Can you give the audience who wouldn't be familiar with sort of what you do in your channel, like what it is that you do?
So, my channel's made specifically as agitprop, and also I put out hip hop on it because I'm a rapper. So, but it talks about a lot of political content, specifically from a street lumpen proletariat background perspective. You know what I mean? So, and a political organizing perspective, because I've been an organizer for 15 years. So, when I got out of prison, I specifically went straight into organizing. And so, but I see it from my perspective. I've never traded my perspective to fit in or assimilate. So, my perspective came from the street, but it's also I'm a street nigga, but I'm a nerdy street nigga. So it's like I'm also kind of little, you know, you might see me nerd out as, you know, some Fallout references here and some different little things in my videos. You know what I mean? Because I'm definitely still a nerd, but my videos come from that perspective. I've been mixing a little media analysis to it too, but I don't think I can really ever pull too far away from the politics. Like my one morality even though it was media like analysis, kind of when we're talking about morality in The Last of Us, it was also very much talking about the construct, the imperialist construct that is morality, right? And like, so yeah, so that's kind of what I do, you know, on this in the streets. I have been on the ground frontline organizer. I am part of Fight Toxic Prisons, which what we do is we shut down prisons. Like we've shut down $5 billion in new prison construction, as well as we've been able to force them to evacuate during storms when they want to like just keep people locked in during a hurricane where they could possibly die. People have died, like what happened in Beaumont. We also do bailouts and mutual aid and community support. Yeah, so. And I have a long organizing history pre-FTP, but I'm not going to get into that because that'd take forever.
Sure. But, well, thank you for your service. I know I appreciate your channel and, you know, the work that you're doing and, you know, that people like you are doing. So thank you.
Sure. I mean, I'm glad that it gets seen. I mean, cause I'm not gonna lie, I be feeling irate because I feel like a lot of the people who should be voices elevated are people who don't get elevated. A lot of people who are just kind of like learning about the stuff, be the ones who be playing a gatekeeper, which is super backwards. Like, you know what I mean? Like going to school and learning about some politics doesn't equate you as like being an experienced veteran organizer that might actually have a little understanding of like how actually shit pans out versus like we might have practice instead of just theory. You know what I mean? You need to have theory and the action to make praxis. So yeah.
Just like we were just saying about martial arts, if you don't do it, you can't do it really.
Yeah. I mean the thing with martial arts is people can't gatekeep if they don't know how it works, right? But the problem with politics, they can't. They can gatekeep based off of, as long as it fits the rhetoric of what's already been told to people, they can gatekeep it, even if that's just completely inaccurate, right?
Actually, I think that maybe they can because you have all these like you said, like fake martial arts masters who are blasting people with chi and fucking, you know, with kamehamehas and shit. So like there are those people out there, and I think like there's maybe an equivalent of, you know, like the political thing where it's like all these people out there just they're just grifters, right? Just different kinds of grifters.
Yeah, 100%. Like, man, I'm probably gonna get hate for this, but I already said it before. Like Cornell West, like Grifter Central, bro, like Grifter Central. Everybody's like, but you were lying. How would you say it? Because I'm an underground organizer and I see how he shows up, take the photo op, and leaves and never does any work. I see how he does that, right? But everybody's like, oh my God. But that's an example, like one of the most famous grifters out of our people. Now, there are plenty of other grifters of, like, you know, any politician, period. But, you know, I feel like out of our people right now, at least, that's one of the most popular ones. And I think there's also, like, you see the same thing on YouTube. But I don't know if do the people who be faking it in the martial arts wise really be gatekeeping, or they just also have a fan base? Because it feels like the real martial artists. Oh, go ahead, because you know it's better than me. Cause, yeah.
I mean, so there are like, yeah, there's gatekeeping at all levels to some degree, but like it's usually with the people who are the less legit you get, the more sort of gatekeeping there is because it's more of a cult-like situation, right? In the same way that you have like probably political cults, right? I watched one of your political cult videos, that was great, but it's the same thing, right? It's you have somebody who's like literally making up like their own magical art. And they're looking for vulnerable people who are looking to kind of like have personal connections with people and like latch on to something to believe in and stuff. And they're like really desperate probably in some way, you know, they're just looking for something. And so these people are like, I can teach you how to, and they basically just like slowly brainwash people into thinking like, oh yeah, like you're feeling like my chi from across the room and I can like pick you up and like it gets really wild. Check out McDojo Life. I actually interviewed Rob from that channel. If you want to look at some really wild shit that people are like, it's disturbing. It's like straight up cult brainwashing. Like it's crazy. So yes, this happens.
Man, wild. I'm like, I feel like you would. How can you not realize the first time you get in a fight that it's all bullshit?
Like, no. Check it out, because it's an abusive relationship, right? So what happens is, whenever it doesn't work for you, you go back to the master and you say, you know, it didn't work. What's going on? And it was like, you didn't do it right.
Man, that's wild. There's some of these dudes that are super dangerous, though. I won't lie. There's a one dude who teaches people how to disarm weapons, disarm guns. They've been making fun of him forever now. At this point,
Dude,
like,
are you talking about Dale Brown?
From Detroit or whatever. That dude was like, bro, you can get killed, fool. Like, what are you doing?
Dude, so I made a shirt. I should have worn it instead of this one. Like, I made a shirt of him because he made this long ass like wild comment on like a real YouTuber's video making fun of him, and he like left this long ass message. So I took a piece of that message and I made a picture of it. It's on a shirt. It's amazing.
That dude, I bet you he's already got some people murked. Like, Doug, like, nah, man, if you dead to rights, like, look, if you have a gun and you're dead to rights, probably just give shit up, bro. Like, because you're not going to get to the gun before they can pull that trigger. That's just not realistic. You know what I mean? Like, look, as a big ass nigga, I got robbed in Mobile, and I got robbed trying to buy some fucking weed. And, you know, I started dude tried to debo me at first. I tried to squab with him, and then the gun came out. I can't fight a gun. I was like, all right, you win. Keep the money. I take the L. You know what I mean? And so it just is what it was. It was what it was. Now, did I want to? Was my pride screaming to like try to take it from him? Yeah, but that pride's gonna get me killed because I'm not gonna like. The chances of me actually pulling that off is like 1,000 to 1. And then like, does that happen? Sometimes. But also, even when you usually see someone take a gun from somebody, it's in the draw. Once it's drawn, it's too late. And the way that was set up was his girlfriend pulled it from behind him, so there's no way I could do anything about it, and then handed it to him. You know what I mean? So the barrel was at me the whole time. There's no way to do it. Like, you know what I mean? Now I've had homies who have like stopped people from pulling straps on them and shit in the draw when they're trying to pull out their bag or something. But that's a whole different conversation. And even that is hella dangerous because if you fail, what happened? You get shot. You know what I mean? And it's not something you count on every time because, you know, like people point out with that one dude's all they do, like you try to grab the gun and pull back and pull the trigger. You know what I mean? Like, the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, damn. And like, I don't know, disarming things. As someone who's been stabbed and shit and like been able to like eventually, and it wasn't even by myself, but eventually disarm a person who stabbed me, right? Right? Like the thing is, I got stabbed. Like I didn't like I stopped him from stabbing me. I stopped him from continuing to stab me is what happened. You know what I mean? And that was like it's a whole different, you know, the reality is different than what people think it is. You know what I mean? And like, or like people say about knife fights, people with knife fights, both people are getting cut. You know what I mean? Both people are getting cut. That's really happening. You know what I mean? And these, I don't know. I'm really big, and I think any people who are political are watching this, I say good thing for you watching self-defense because I've big advocated, not self-defense, but like training and how to fight and how to do combat because that is crucial. And I don't think just people who are revolutionary. I think every single person should learn it, to be honest with you, because we rely too much on a system and the way things are, but things can crack just like that. And I think people don't think about like the total repercussions that could happen in an instant from an economic collapse, anything, you know what I mean? Shoot. We can go to out of the Earth's control and say a solar flare can fuck everything off. And we now, what you're gonna know, you're gonna have to have somebody who knows how to grow food. You gotta know how to defend yourself. I would suggest like knowing how to utilize firearms, knives, kill your own food. All those things are gonna be fundamental. And I think too much in this society we give away our power, and our power comes from us training, comes from us taking responsibility for our own lives. You know what I mean? As much as I'm collectively, I'm also big on responsibility for our own lives. Like, we got to be able to defend ourselves. We got to be able to defend the people we care about to at least some degree. You know what I mean? Even if we're not like Mike Tyson or nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and I think that, like, I've never, honestly, like, it's crazy that more people can't come together on more things because, like, so far, like, saying like everyone should be able to defend. I've never heard anyone argue against that. Like no one's ever argued against that. You know, like I've never heard anybody on the left or right say like we shouldn't try to like defend the people we care about. Like it's really wild that people like, I don't know, because that makes sense. It makes sense to me too. I fully agree with everything you said. So I'm glad to hear you say that, because hopefully a lot of people who are watching this will also agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard people. I've seen most people do it by their actions show that they don't believe that. But there are some people. I've had people say that people don't feel like they trust me because I'm okay with violence being a tool in my toolbox. And I'm like, should it ever not been for anybody?
Yeah, like what are you talking about? Do they think that like primitive people didn't use violence at all? Like what are they talking about?
I mean, there is some. I'll be real with you. There is some people who really fantasize about nature, fantasize about like civilizations pre-colonialism. You know what I mean? They fantasize about like these things being something that they never were. Right? They have these ideas like, like that nature isn't violent. You know what I mean? That nature is inherently just more like, bro, nature is brutal. What are you talking about? Have you ever? That's why I say I like animals. So like, watch animals. It's brutal. It can be completely and utterly beautiful at moments too. Don't get it wrong. Like a lion can protect a fucking goat, a fucking sheep or whatever. That happens. But 9 times out of 10, that's dinner. You know what I mean? 9 times out of 10, things don't really navigate that way. You know what I mean? And I think because there's like this tendency, specifically on the left, to make humans be the bad, dysfunctional ones that no other animals act like. I'm like, no, animals go to war. Like, you ever watch monkeys? They go to war. Like, it's not just us, right? But I think people want us to get back to this fanciful time where there wasn't war and it was peaceful and everybody had enough. And I was like, no, there are communities that had that reality for long periods of time, but there's never been where it was humanity's reality. You know what I mean? And I think people don't want to address that because it makes life a lot harder, and then the fantasies of who we are, what we are, starts to like dissolve. In my opinion, that's kind of like what is happening. But I've seen it happen a lot, specifically on the left. The right are like do the opposite end of it, where they like act like nothing communal happens, nothing about care happens. They do the complete opposite, right? It's like the two sides get split. The reality's in the middle, and these two sides go two different directions, go to these two extremes. Like everything is peaceful, and Disney movie Bambi shit before the hunter comes. Like all the the lions and the rabbits are singing together and shit, and like the wolves are taking care of all the sheep and making sure they're all good, giving them back massages or something. Like, that's how motherfuckers view this shit, which is not real. Versus the other end is like that there's never no care. It's dog eat dog, you know what I mean? Which is also not true. It's like way more complex than that. And I think I'm ranting, but I think there's like these weird tendencies that we tend to like break into these two camps that are both like wrong. You know what I mean? Or they're half right. You know what I mean? If you combine both of the things, they'd be more accurate, but they're both like half right. But,
yeah. Well, I think the constant struggle of like our violence against like our ability to overcome, to like feel for each other and try to not do that is like the nature of all of our kind of failures and successes, on both sides. It's like that's what makes things happen, right? If everything was cool, either one way or the other, either there'd be way too much life and it would be too much, or everything would just crush itself and there'd be death everywhere. So it's like you have to have that kind of like, yeah, we're monsters for sure. Everyone's a monster in here, but like also you can use this to like use the monster when it's convenient.
I mean, I don't even know if think we're monsters so much as I think we're animals, and animals are just complex creatures. I also don't believe in like per se moral. Like I said in the video, I'm amoral. I don't believe in right and wrong. I have things I don't believe in. I don't think it's okay, but it's because I don't think it's okay, right? I don't think it's like anything is inherently wrong. It just I don't like it, so I won't tolerate it type shit. And I take ownership of that. You know what I mean? So like, okay, I don't think this is cool. I don't think the outcomes of this is cool, so I won't tolerate it, right? It's like, for example, we can use an extreme rapist, right? I don't think it's cool. I don't think the outcome of it is cool, so I won't tolerate it in my spaces. If it's around me, I'm attacking it. It is what it is.
But then it does, on the other hand, it's like, I'm not saying that there's anything at all in the world that's fundamentally good or bad, because I don't believe that either. I just believe like we decide the choices we make and what we can live and stand on, and how that reflects on us as what we are as a being, right? And so like I move like that, but I don't actually believe in like right or wrong per se. You know what I mean? If that makes any type of sense.
No. So what I was gonna say was like when I say monster, I just mean like the ability to harness like all the kind of like all the really aggressiveness of your nature. I'm not saying that's like right or wrong. It's like, you know, your ability to be aggressive rather than to be, you know, to use like all of your like mental and psychological ability to think, you know, be calm and take a deep breath and you know, kind of be the other way. So I wasn't saying it's like a good or bad. It's more of just like a, you know, how different extremes of how you can access those two, I think, abilities that are on like opposite sides of a more of like an emotional spectrum, you know.
Do you think they're like opposites, or do you think they're like actually go hand in hand? Because that's kind of how I view it. Those things can go very hand in hand, actually. And I think we as society like put it in certain ways. Because like we talk about anger, for example, it's actually on the side of the brain, right? At least is what I've been told. That I haven't done enough research on it, so don't call me too hard. But I'm pretty sure this is true. The side of the brain that a lot of emotions that we associate with positive emotions exist on. So like I kind of wonder, like, is it really like that separate as we like to think it is, or is it more like we choose to divide it based off our like constructs of morality into these two like things, like there's a monster and the caring mom is two separate things. But is it really, when the bear charges at you to try and protect the cubs, is it really like two separate things? You feel me? And so I kind of get into those questions of like, is it really that separate from each other? I feel like it's a little more murky. Oh, go ahead.
So I was thinking in a physical way, and I'm translating this through my lens of jiu-jitsu, so and kind of just working out in general. So there's what people would consider like technical understanding, which would be the way your body mechanics actually are supposed to kind of like perfectly work or work most efficiently for you. And then you have like sort of like harnessing, like trying to like kind of strain your muscles and just go for it in like an instinctual kind of way, where just like doing explosiveness. And that the one way you can save yourself energy while you're doing any kind of motion, right? If you're always thinking about moving efficiently, you're practicing that, you know, just like we were saying earlier. Whenever the more you practice something, the better you get at it. So if you're really focused, hyper focused on that, you can save yourself a lot of energy. Now, the other way, if you're like someone who like every time you do something, you just go as hard as you possibly can, like you're probably not going to learn anything. And additionally, you're probably going to wear yourself out a lot quicker because you're not really focused on how can I breathe better? How can I, like, what angle is my, you know, how's my weight supposed to be leaning? So in more of like a physical way, like the first way, if you're really relaxed, is in the direction of like being able to learn. The other direction is in like the wearing yourself out because you're just trying to like force things. Does that make sense? Like, so it's just, that's the way I think about what we're talking about. It's like the emotional way, because like becoming relaxed and calm is this over here, and then like really like focusing your like whatever feelings and emotions, like you can really get amped up and you can be really powerful that way, and you can certainly win fights that way, but you, like, no one can do that forever. It's like you can't just squeeze all your muscles as hard as you can for very long. It's just the nature of, like, I feel like that kind of emotional those two states, if that makes sense.
I hear that. So yeah, I can hear that. I feel like yeah, in the physicality sense, think but I also feel like that also goes to training versus like being trained, right? Because then the more you train, the more those kind of they're kind of that separate anymore. Because the more you like focus, it already becomes instinct. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But so, it's yeah. The better train. I think that you can't go, like, you can't have both, right? Like the further, like you just said, I don't that, and that's why I'm saying it's like a spectrum. It's like the more training you have, the more the needle just swings towards you being more efficient, and it's just going to seem easier. Like if you eventually don't even do this thing over here because all you're doing is this over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. I'm actually, one of your really saying things that made me think about me and slipping specifically, where I overslip too many times, and then how much like energy that expends when you slip too much, like you slip more than you need. Like, for one, it slows you down because you now overshot it, but then for two, like, it expends a lot of energy. So it does make me think about that. But like, I always wondered, like, I mean, I'm not that trained to that degree, so I don't know. But I always feel like I've seen people who, like, it feels like their aggression and their like all the oomph that most people would try to do, they could win some fights but not be trained. It seems like people who train a lot, like, have that shit like perfectly balanced together. But maybe I'm tripping. Maybe they have conquered it. I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering, because I'm not that trained like that, so I can't speak to it. I just like wonder in my head, right? So.
Yeah, and I mean, in my experience, like I train at one of the larger MMA schools here in Pittsburgh. And if also, by the way, if you ever want to come and train with me, or actually if you're in Northeast or in this area, Western Pennsylvania, you're welcome to crash here or stay with me if you need to. But we we train in the basement too if you want to get some training in. But in my experience, whenever people can be really really talented and understand but then there's also then like the intensity dial as well. So it's like the intensity dial is still over here, I think. And so it's like when you dial up that intensity, then you're starting to like resist stuff that you don't need to resist, and it becomes like it's weird. It becomes like it's hard because it's harder to think. It's harder to pay attention to what someone else is doing if you are trying to do what you're trying to do. Like if you have your own plan, which is so like if we're having a conversation, if we're just both talking at the same time, no one's getting anything. But if I want to have like a successful exchange, I need to listen and then process and stuff. So in the same way, like when people start to get more trained, they do that, and it falls further away from like pressing the gas pedal all the way down. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you feel like that could be something unique to jiu-jitsu too, though, or no? Maybe. I mean, obviously, like all ideas don't translate everywhere, but I mean, I think that like if you really think about it, like if you're angry, wouldn't it be more difficult for you to learn something if you had to learn it, or would you be thinking about the thing that made you angry? I mean, it depends. Like, if I'm like gonna fight, I mean, I get learning it, but like, yeah, I get like getting angry about trying to learn stuff. But like, if I was like to fight, like, I feel like Mike Tyson was angry a lot. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. But he might like whenever he feels like he's about to fight somebody, that might just go away. He might just go into like, okay, I'm now I have to like put you on the ground and that's it. Like there's no now the anger might just like I don't know. He might talk about it on his podcast. I don't know.
No, yeah, I'm just wondering. This is all just quick. I'm not trying to be like, oh, you're wrong or nothing like that.
No. Sorry.
Because you're probably way more trained than me, so like I'm not gonna like not trying to. I just like wonder. Cause I'm somebody who's more a striker, but I also ain't that trained like that. Like I'm trained enough that if I can fight with you, it ain't gonna necessarily be fun to fight me, right? But I'm not trained enough to like I'm like, oh, I'm like a pro or something. Like any pro's gonna kick my ass, like without a question. I mean, I might cheat, so maybe not. But like if it was a fair fight, they're gonna kick my ass. You know what I mean? But like, it's just wondering, because it's kind of curious for me, because I always like, but I do feel you, because one thing I noticed is the more I trained, the less of a temper problems I had. Like before I trained, even though like I said, Hungar wasn't that great, but when I started Hungar, like it gave me more focus, and the more I learned how to fight, the more like I felt less need to be angry, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, 100% makes sense.
Because
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I cut you off.
Oh, I was gonna say that absolutely makes sense, because I mean, it's almost like the Dunning-Kruger thing, where it's like, if you start training with people who are better than you, then chances are, if you're like we were talking about earlier, if you're really training with them and they're really whipping your ass a little bit, then you understand like, oh, I wouldn't have known that any of these people could do that if I just saw them. So that means I don't know what anybody out here can do at all. and like that ocean goes really deep. And so I think the more you train, like, you know, every time you run into somebody who's just like levels above you, you're like, oh shit, I thought I knew what I was doing. I don't. And it just that just keeps happening. If you keep training, that just keeps happening. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you start to get more calm in situations where you're like, I'm just going to be cool out here because I don't know who out here has a weapon or knows more than I know in the thing that I think I'm good at or whatever, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you never know who has the stone jaw either. You ever had that shit where you're going to fight with somebody, you hit him with a stone jaw and like, that normally knock a nigga out, but you just took that as nothing. Oh my God, I'm in for this. I'm about to catch an ass whooping right now. I can already tell. Like, this is not great. I don't know if you ever had those situations where you caught someone and they just have a stone jaw and they're like, damn.
I'm not a striker, but sometimes in jiu-jitsu where you like someone takes some grips or something where they get you collar tie and you're like, oh shit, I'm gonna go for a ride. Or you feel that they're like good at judo or something. You're like, well, I'm probably gonna go through the air right now. Let's just try to brace for impact, you know.
Yeah, man, it's just but the thing is, the good thing about getting older, I don't find myself in situations like that no more, really. Like, you know what I mean? Because like, if I'm getting involved, you already did something, and usually people who are trained don't usually start the shit. I won't say never, but don't usually be the ones doing some dumb shit. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's never
usually like if I'm in a situation like that, and it's like not too worried, like, you know, and even if I like don't win, we're gonna give each other both some good licks, and they're gonna let, even if I don't, because see, also when I do shit, when I intervene in problematic shit like that, right, or like the one I gave an example earlier, even if I don't win, the point isn't about winning. The point is like, no, you act like that, there's repercussions in this world. You know what I mean? And so even if we give each other both good licks, you still gonna have to go lick your wounds too. You know what I mean? And then you'd be like, maybe I shouldn't have, maybe what I would be doing wasn't worth doing that. You know what I mean? I also think that's one thing I would want to exchange with people too. Like, if you get in altercations with people, is fight back as hard as you can and make them lick their wounds too. Because what happens is not only do other people not want to fuck with you after that, because like, oh, they're gonna fight their hardest, but also the person thinks about fucking with other people after that. Like, damn, well, shit, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. You know what I mean? Now, like I said, it's not everybody. There's not a rule that works for everybody. By my experience, like, there's some people who like getting beat up. You know what I mean? They keep fighting. There's some people who aren't even good at fighting. Will keep fighting people and keep getting beat up over and over again. Like,
wait, some cops and crooks, it's like it's a Tom and Jerry thing.
Right.
There are guys that would run from us and fight with us just for the lulz, just for fun. There was this guy in Santee, one-legged Roy. He lost his leg running from the police and fighting with the police, and never stopped running from the police and fighting the police. And
Jeez.
if you were a new cop, they would like let him whoop new cops' asses because they the old one-legged Roy, and he would like wear a new cop out fast because he knew how to fight. And he'd been fighting the cops his whole life. He wasn't scared, you know. He wasn't nervous, and he wasn't worried about getting in trouble. He didn't care about his rap sheet, and there was the type of community where if you just get drunk and run from and fight the police once a week, and you got all these cases pending, they'll bond you out if you keep showing up to court. Because like you'll just, oh, that's just Roy. That's just what he does. You know, you think like, why isn't this person in prison if this is all he does? He's harmless.
Right. It's like he beat Jim up a little bit the other day, but Jim
just a little bit. Anyway. Yeah, he just beat him up a little bit.
Yeah, Jim should have known better than to fuck with one-legged Roy. That was stupid of him.
Yeah.
It happens. There are some people like that, but again, most of them are young. I think when people get older, they like start to calm down. I mean, or you don't last, one of the two. So
yeah, I know a lot of those people. A lot of those people go to the gym. Shout out to them. But you're right. Some people just like to get their ass beat, and like, I mean, hopefully you don't run into that person on the street. And if you know about training, then you know you don't want to deal with any of that.
Bet. And my advice to everybody: average size people are the most likely to be dangerous. Like, you know what I mean? Not small, not big, but average size people. Like, every person who's ever whooped my ass has been average or even small. But big people, most of us aren't that dangerous, to be real. And buff people, same thing. Buff people tend to be like kind of weenies. Like it's like all posturing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
now there's exceptions. like I said, always exceptions to the rule, but like usually it's like the big buff dude is not really as scary as you think they are. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, you wouldn't like, where are you at, bro? Like, but I know we're talking a lot about fighting, but is there other subjects besides squabbing?
No, that's perfect, man. Like I said, this is a like mostly martial arts channel. So everybody who I had on before you is like has a martial arts channel, and I really didn't even know that you did martial arts. So it's awesome that like we can talk about martial arts stuff too. That's like perfect. I mean, I like hopefully now it's like we can like glue this whole community together. I feel like it's like build a martial arts bridge between everybody, and like everybody will calm down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm mediocre. I mean, I've had a few little boxing lessons, but when I went to a serious boxing class, man, I was fucked up. I was fucked up, bro. That was too much. Like some of their drills are crazy. Like some of the drills to warm up, I'm like, bro, how do you do this? You know what I mean? So, I mean, to be in good context, I won't call myself a martial art person. I just believe in being able to fight enough to like defend yourself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And better if you can get better, but like I don't have the money to be going to like full-on classes all the time, so most of it's like me and homies that are also slightly trained or more trained depending, spar together and teach each other shit, and then also on top of that we take the basic knowledge and then try to add on to it through like training channels. Like, but the thing is also, don't look for the magic, look for the simple shit for everybody. If you're like looking on YouTube, look your foot placement, look you like, you know what I mean, your technique about how to do it, and then practice that shit slowly at first. Make sure you get that and speed up slowly, and then get your homie, get some little pads. I have some in the back of the car right now, but get some little pads. Just run them drills, the very minimum, at very minimum. Because also one thing you got to get used to if you don't punch, if you've never been in a fight, y'all, is how to punch people. Because the most unfun thing is when you do this, and you like twist your fucking shit. You're like, ah. Like, you know what I mean? So you want to get used to that, you know what I mean? Because especially if you're not wrapping your shit like a boxer does. But now you have a whole different experience, though, because you're gonna be going for the ground, which I'm always hesitant to say. I'm kind of against on the street fights. I'm gonna be real, because street fights, quick head kick at that point.
I would never recommend anyone to go to the ground in a street fight. Like let's get that out there. Like that's another like a misconception I think about jiu-jitsu is that like. So a lot of schools do focus on ground game, especially because in competition is the kind of the thing that has the most attention on it, just like Olympic judo, and both those things affect how people perceive the art. But like for example, in Pittsburgh, like this is a huge wrestling area, and so we have a lot of wrestlers here. This is like one of the biggest wrestling areas in the country, and so we'll do a lot of stand-up game like to start. Like everyone, not everybody, but a lot of people are just good wrestlers to start. So it's weird that it's not weird. It's understandable that people don't think that jiu-jitsu people can go to the ground or can stand up and fight, but that's like kind of one of our primary things, especially around here, because like it's about self-defense, and like you just said, going to the ground is going to get you kicked in the head for sure, or you're going to get stomped out. You're going to get, there's no, like, you would never ever, the guard thing is only as an emergency if for some reason someone, like, tackles you, and then you can fight back up to your feet, like, wrestle up, and then hopefully control them in some way, like, and that's partly what I like to focus on, too, is, like, just being able to control somebody from the feet. So, that is accurate, what you said, but I will say that there are a lot of schools that do understand that you should never, I agree, 100%. If you can stay on your feet, that is the best thing. You don't ever want to go to the ground, especially you don't know what, the ground has on it. There could be broken glass. You could hit your head on concrete. You don't know if they have friends around. You're gonna stomp you the fuck out. Like,
yeah, man. I mean, yeah, because you want to be able to see everybody, especially if there are people around, because there might be their friends around, and you're gonna get jumped if you start winning. Just count on that. Also, there's no such thing as a fair fight. Don't ever believe that shit. As you know what I mean? You might get fair fights to the average size person, but you start actually having a little bit of hands, they're going to jump you. If you're big, you already know they are jumping you. Like, if you're over 6'1", they're jumping you. If you're 6'1" and you're like got broad shoulders like me, even being fat, they are jumping you. Like, they're not giving you a fair fight. So it's just like, Also, that's a big thing too, is knowing placement. I mean, I it might not make sense to everybody, but Five Rings is a great book. I always tell people, like, some of the things he said, the Five Rings is fire, especially when it comes about multiple opponents and like how to position yourself in. You know what I mean? Right side towards the exit. You know what I mean? So you can get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? If you're getting cornered, or your strong side, not the right side, your strong side. So someone, like, you want to face towards, so if you need to power through somebody, you can power through them and get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? And all those type of things. And it's also a good, I always, Five Rings, which will also be named my album, so make sure to cop that when it drops. But Five Rings is also a really good book just to think about, take away the fantasy of it, right? Because Musashi kind of breaks down, when you learn about Musashi, the best samurai of all times, a lot of the shit was him jumping out on motherfuckers and all sorts of shit. It wasn't what people make it out to be, you know what I mean? Which destroying the mysticism of some of the stuff is crucial, because people like get caught in this like mysticism of fighting and combat that we need to just throw away, right? The honorable combat shit, that's always been bullshit. It's never been real. There's no such thing. That was like saved for duels, which was a sport, you know what I mean? So yeah. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the only honorable fights are ones that people have agreed to, and they agree to rules, and then they fight it out, and that's like that. Yeah, if you're fighting people on the street, everything you just said, absolutely.
Even if they do agree to rules, don't count them to follow by what they said. Switch up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
I'm like in a professional setting, but you're right. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. Sorry.
I generally agree with you, but then I just gotta say again, Mike Tyson.
I was watching that fight. When that happened.
But I think also martial arts does have a great overlap with politics too, in a lot of ways, and like just combat sports, or combat is, I won't say sports, combat in general has a good overlap, because that's what we're doing one way or another. We're talking about like politically, when we talk about like speaking, or we talk about politically on the ground. You know what I mean? But just throwing that out there. But
that's a really interesting thought. Sorry, go ahead.
I also want to see what other trivia questions you got for me, because.
Well, I didn't prepare any trivia questions for you. I this is like just to get to know you kind of situation. I'm trying. I feel like you have a much deeper knowledge of the sorts of trivia that like you would be interested in than I could ever. I could never hope to try to challenge you on some of the political stuff. There's no way.
So how do you? Here's my question: how did you find the channel and find out about like what I was doing in the first place?
So I was watching FD's channel, and I saw you on there, and so I really like a lot of his videos. And actually, yeah, so that's how I found you, and like I found a couple other channels the same way. And yeah, I just really enjoy all your guys' content. Yeah, it's because I'm both black and Jewish, so. Yeah, as you can imagine, and also, so I live in Pittsburgh, and like a couple of neighborhoods over was, I don't know if you heard about the most horrific, synagogue slaughter in American history. That was like right over here. So as you can imagine, I have concerns in many political arenas currently.
Man, that reminds me. So my foster dad is an Orthodox Jew, right? So he basically so he's also a martial artist. He actually was if you look up man, I'm trying to forget Bernard J. Lenin or J.B. Lenin, like think about 85-ish. At one point he was actually like second in the nation and like 7th in the world at one point. So he's big on like doing like, so he's like out here somewhere doing stuff for Seward Park. At Seward Park and stuff like for Jewish communities. We were really close, but we ended up like, I keep a distance now because he's like super Zionist. You know what I mean? Oh. So it's like, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's really interesting, like the Orthodox perspective of it. But it's also like really tied to Zionism hella hard, right? I don't know if like that's how it is there, or like how do you navigate that? Is that like a thing there, or do you guys like more like pro-Palestine, like anti-Zionist Jewish folks?
Well, so Pittsburgh's weird because it's not. I mean, so I'm not super involved in the Jewish community nearby, because like
Okay.
my family, we were just kind of like culturally Jewish. We like we'll celebrate like holidays for for family gathering purposes, but not really like, and we're not. None of us went to synagogue or anything like that. So that's my mom's side of the family. So like, yeah, we just, like we would get together for holidays, and like it's more that's what I think one of the beauties about people don't really get about being Jewish. It's like it's not it's not all people that are like Orthodox Jews. It's like there's plenty of Jews who just like they're culturally Jews. It's like, what are you, Jewish? Like the same way people would say identify with any other group of people. It's like not necessarily religious. So like we're more like that. It's just more of a kind of pride kind of thing and a family thing. A closeness with other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I mean, I get that. I just didn't get that. It just because you brought up the synagogue, so I assumed that you went to.
No,
but,
I don't go. I'm a non-religious person entirely. I totally agree with what you said about there being no morality. The universe doesn't give a fuck about any of this. Like I don't like. There's no. This is total like mathematical chaos as far as I'm concerned. So like I wasn't trying to. That's why I tried to. I felt like I needed to correct myself and be like, I didn't mean monster like you're evil. Like I don't. Yeah, no. There's no such thing as any of that shit. Like I'm right with you, man. Right there.
So it's interesting because like. Different perspective, right? Because I'm absolutely, positively not an atheist, right? Like I'm 100% not an atheist, but the way I believe in it, the reason there's no good or bad is because I don't believe in separate consciousnesses, right? I believe in separate individual identities that people might call a soul, right, or whatever, which is the experience of this one body or whatever. But I think we all share one giant consciousness. Like we're one being, right? So like, which is God, which is the universe, which is whatever you want to call it. Like the whole of the universe is God, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's like I think it's actual living being. So sentient living being at that. So but that being said, it doesn't make things good or evil. It's just these different roles we're playing. I'm also, people are gonna hate this. People always hate this, but I'm also a devout determinist. I don't believe in free will, not one drop of it. I think it's just well-wishing from humans, makes you feel good. And the ironic thing is I don't even come from that from like a spiritual level. I come from that like I'd still believe that if I was an atheist. Like I was like all chemical reactions and the even our neural pathways that are built from our ancestors, which all come from this one path. It's like a trajectory everything's on, right? So which also scares me to some degree. Because we could be the next bacteria that created oxygen, except we're doing the opposite. So, you know what I mean? It could be exactly the role we're supposed to play, which would suck. To be the extinction level being that, you know what I mean? Let's destroy it all.
Well, if that ends up being the case, then what were we supposed to do about it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think there's... Here's the thing is, with determinism, to me, it doesn't make it that... you are not accountable for your actions. That's not what it means. You know what I mean? It's like macro versus micro. You can't like go to the macro. See, it's determinism. So anything I do is like, no, that's not how that works, bro. Yeah, you were always gonna do those things, but that just means you were always, as this individual, gonna be a fucking shitty ass person. That doesn't make it like okay because you did that. It just means that okay, that was gonna happen. But there's also, on the other hand, those of us who are supposed to be the ones that resist it, bite down as hard as we can to be like, no, you know what I mean? But it's just hopefully that the no's win versus the yes extinction wins. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah. That just, oh man, I'm having super ADHD moments. So I hope this makes good content. I don't know if it does.
No. I'm right there with you, man. I'm definitely following what you're saying. I was gonna add more. I was gonna say like. The people who are so in the determinism, like to expand upon what you're saying, is like if it is in your nature to make this one choice or another, then like you're probably gonna make the one that's whatever you're likely to make, like so, but there's free will or not, who knows? I don't know. I don't disagree with you.
I just think we have to make so many like justifications as far as the free will thing. We have to make so many like excuses and justifications and exceptions to make free will make sense, right? Like, which's more likely? Like, let's use from an atheist standpoint. There's a Big Bang or whatever the fuck that was. I argue there's contractions and expansions versus a one bang that happened, right? Let's say it all happened. All these things were put into motion, and it was all a result of all these molecules happening. Or that there is infinite universe and infinite possibilities of what could happen, and we take it seems like one's much more of a stretch, and this is the infinite like possibilities seems more of a stretch to me than like it's kind of just playing out the way it's playing out. You know what I mean? Like,
see, I know I understand what you're saying, but see, I actually think that maybe the infinite thing is not unlikely. Because I don't, who knows what's really likely, but as an idea, I don't find that that's really ridiculous. Because I mean, I like to watch science YouTube videos and stuff, and like a lot of quantum effects seem to be like oddly now getting like provable, kind of. So if those things are true, then it is possible that everything is happening all at once, and who knows? Like you and I are having the same it's like a spectrum of infinities, like the same conversation but with like little tweaks here and there, like a different person walking by in the background or something. Like, to me that doesn't seem as ridiculous. I don't think either one seems ridiculous, really. I think it could go either way, really.
I just think that we have to make more exceptions, and we have to like, what's it called? Occam's razor, I think, is what it is. Like, what's the most likely outcome? And to me, it seems like determinism seems much more likely than the other. Now, I do believe everything happens at once. I think time is a location, not like a moving. Like, we're not just moving through it. We're at different locations in the time period, right? And so I think that is the fourth dimension, right? So when we talk about the fourth dimension, like that's time, right? Right. The fourth dimension, you're at the specific junction, right? And I do think things actually happen all at once, the beginning, end, all of it, all at once, right? But I just don't think there's like a million all at once everywhere, or billions or trillions or a numberless amount. I just think that seems like a little bit of a push. It could be true, but like I still, even with quantum physics, don't see that as necessarily being evidence for that. You know what I mean? Like,
so the reason why I think it could possibly be true is because like we don't really, it's because we perceive the world, as far as we can tell, like through a certain set of sensory organs, right? There are like other things that, like at first glance seems like we could never detect, like anything in the spectrum, like infrared, like we can't see that, but it is there, and like if we have the right tools, we can see it. So like it's, who knows how many different levels of things we can't detect for whatever reason there are. And so maybe, like everything could be happening at once, side by side, because there's all these levels of things that we just have no sensors for, and no reason to, like, they don't interact with any of the things that we can interact with. And so I don't know, that's just one of the things that makes it seem possible to me.
I mean, like I'm not disagreeing with that could make sense, but I'm just like, on likelihoods, right? I think it's a low likelihood. I mean, is there things that we can't detect? Absolutely, there's things we can't detect, and that we're not aware of. So I'm not saying there are things above what we're dealing with right now. That's not what I mean. That's not what I'm saying. But like, as in the infinite universe theory, like I'm just like, I don't know about that one. Like each action, there's a new universe created. It seems a little far fetched to me. Now, like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it's like, I think there's one. I guess path line that everything's going on, because even in that is an infinite calculus to understand like any present moment, much less like, especially in wholeality, right? It's like so many mathematical things are happening all at once already, you know what I mean? So it's like it's already so big. I also feel like we just want there to be that, because we as a species want control. Right, we're okay with there not being free will for any other animal but us. And we have this like there's that sense, right, of like generally when people talk about free will, it's only talking about humanity. Even at that, we're not talking about like all animals have free will, but humans have free will. And to me, it's like, it just sounds ridiculous. I mean, if humans have free will, all things have free will. That's the only thing that makes sense. We're not that important. We like to think we are, but we're like, no, we're just one kind of crazy like primate just running around destroying everything. Like we're not. Sorry,
you're right.
I'm talking really bad about humans sometimes. we kind of be wilding.
No, dude. Trust me, I have very similar thoughts bouncing around in my head all the time. So you're right. I'm right there with you.
This is what I mean by I'm a nerd, though, too. This is the type of shit I nerd on. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, destiny is more real than free will, because free will is this branch of things that you guys keep branching out somehow. It's infinite. That's one reason. Free will is based off the idea of infinite growth. Because
is it infinite growth, or is it like a I'm trying to think of like we're talking about like as the universe.
Yeah, I mean it'd be universal. The universe. Nothing's finite. It's infinite. It's infinite growth, right? Because each action, each individual creature could have made would make a whole new timeline, a whole new branch, and infinitely. So I don't really believe in infinite growth. So like, I think that's kind of like something like some of the way capitalism functions is based off the idea of infinite growth. Like that's a real thing. That's why they look for 0-point energy and shit like that. It's they were looking for the ability to tap into like this infinite growth that they hypothesize exists, which I just think is it's not real. You know what I mean? I just don't think that's the thing.
Right. So like just I don't know if you're so the craziness of like high level math is one of the things that makes me think that it could be real. Like the idea of any like additional dimensions like superimposed upon like our own dimension. Like there's a great Carl Sagan video where I don't know if you watch like science videos.
A lot of times.
Here's a really good one talking about what a fourth dimension would be like, and how a tesseract, like the shape a tesseract, is like a shadow of what would be an actual 4-dimensional tesseract in 3 dimensions. And just maybe a more visual example for the audience would be like a Mobius strip. You know, it's like 1-dimensional, right? Technically, which is wild to think about, but like it only has one side and it's infinite. But it's not like this crazy thing that's super long. It's just like this thing that it just never. It is a continuous thing, and so the idea of like there being the possibility of more mathematical dimensions, it doesn't seem that ridiculous to me, because it doesn't have to be an infinite space. It can be just an endless shape.
I mean, here's the thing: is like, I agree with other dimensions. I just don't agree with like the infinitely creating, spawning new dimensions. So that's inherently what it is, right? Because each action would spawn new dimensions. So which sounds cool because it reminds you of like the reproduction of cells and shit. But I don't think that's really how it. You could be right. I just think it's like more of a reach. I think there's more steps there's a shit ton more steps to get to that than the other way around. You know what I mean? That's kind of why I've determined this, because I'm like, yeah, we're trying. I think there's some well-wishing with it. I think there's a lot of like well-wishing, like we're hoping it is, because again, it gives us power. It gives us like, if we have free will, we have power to do anything, to create any type of universe we want. That is what it is. Versus we're extremely limited. It is what it is. Which is ironic, because people are like, well, how can you do philosophy? You could change the whole world and nation. Then I was like, well, I mean, on this plane I could change all of that, but that's a very small, minute thing compared to like what the fuck we talking about, right? It's so much bigger. But that also would mean that I was destined to do that. That also means that I was one of the people that was supposed to be making that happen in the first place. And I don't know. I'm just a nerd. I'm just a nerd. I could just go forever, because I'm really, like I said, I'm a devout determinist. I always say like that. I'm a devout determinist. I think every action is I won't say preordained, because that makes it like it's a big play, but like is every action is a result of the prior action, right? So every action is a reaction. It's just continuously doing that, but on such a humongous level. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate you nerding out and sharing your thoughts. Like I love hearing, like, you know, like and being able to pick the brains of people I find interesting. Like it's I love it. So yeah. So I think that we're about like a little bit over an hour. So that's usually how the limit of the audience's time or attention span, I should say. But so can you tell people where to find you so they can enjoy your content?
Yeah, please check out my channel Overthrow Media on YouTube. Also Bigg Villainus on every other social. That means which BiggVillainus at Instagram, TikTok, even on SoundCloud, but I don't really use it. You Spotify, any streaming if you like hip hop, you know what I mean, you check it there as well. Yeah. So I guess that's pretty much it. And what I will leave you with is we gotta build for our freedom. We gotta build to be able to continue to have a future on this planet, and the people who have chosen to run it aren't gonna do that. So I think we gotta make our own decisions of like what we want our destiny to be, and then take action, because without taking action, nothing will change. So
well, thanks again for your time. I'll stop the recording, but then like I won't stop the meeting immediately, so we can talk for another minute. But yeah, thanks for being here. I really appreciate again you taking the time. I hope you have a safe trip. You know, drive safely.
Oh, I'm posted for now. I got to see
okay.
it. I'm posted until I figure out my health stuff, and then yeah, I just was like running errands and I didn't get back in time to set up my gear, so I was like, oh shit.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you're safely at your destination then. And I wish you luck with all the stuff. And make sure to support Overthrow Media. And thanks for everybody being here. I appreciate your time and your attention. Thanks to BD one more time. Hopefully I'll talk to you again. Maybe have you on the show again. You know, I had a good time talking and nerding out.
Most def. Shit. All right, well, it was good to be here.
Yeah. Well, we'll see everybody later. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.